Alright, hey everybody, it's me, Buster Green, and I guess I'm reviewing more Spider-Man today because it's a Spider-Man kind of week. So Disney Plus dropped the third binging chunk of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, or Friendly Neighborhood Lonnie Lincoln, as everyone has taken to sarcastically calling it. So let's just get into it. Episode 6 is the big Daredevil cameo episode, Duel with the Devil. We got some nice Daredevil-style comic book art here. The episode starts with Peter on thin ice with Nico, and he interacts with the very old man extra who sits in front of him. I've kind of wanted to call out this extra for a while, because this guy looks like he's pushing 50. Anyway, in kind of a shitty development, it seems like Nico has decided to fully cut off Peter because they weren't able to move from friends to boyfriend-girlfriends and therefore dating, which devastates Peter, who didn't even realize she was into him and doesn't quite get it. But before we can even sit with that, Lonnie comes by and instantly cuts off Peter and steals the spotlight. Lonnie gets fired from the football team, loses his special football locker, and then Pearl starts giving Lonnie some major crap about how irresponsible and unclear with her he's being. Peter eventually gets the spotlight back and figures that Nico was mad about Harry third-wheeling on their movie date and mentions that she values honesty in their relationship. This is going to come up later at the end of the episode. So anyway, Peter tries to smooth things over with her by forcing all three of them to go out and trying to make them all friends, and he really nerdily justifies it by using algebra, which Nico is kind of into. God damn it, Peter, marry this woman. Stop hesitating. Meanwhile, Lonnie drops out of high school, so Peter ends up stuck with Pearl on the group project, and Pearl drops a bunch of drama about Lonnie being out of whack and skipping school and dropping out of school. We go back to Lonnie's house for a second where he has a fight with his brother, and then we go to the Peter-Harry story. So Peter's back at Osborn Tower. He's hanging out with Harry. There's a blink and you'll miss it moment where Peter catches Jean sneaking around. I guess she might also be a supervillain, or otherwise she's just a snoop. What's up with that? Anyway, then he goes back to his house, Aunt Mate leaves for a hot date, and Peter, Harry, and Nico all hang out and eat pizza rolls. Damn, pizza rolls are delicious. Now there's this awkward moment where Harry is too rich to know what a raisin is, and then Peter tries to lighten the mood by pointing out that everyone's moms are fucking dead. Wow, Peter, you're so awkward. Now then there's another funny moment where Harry and Nico don't know how to work a VHS player, and Peter wants them to watch Predator, but he leaves, leaving the whole thing inconclusive. The show flips over to a fancy gala where Norman and Thunderbolt Ross are talking about the aftermath of Captain America's Civil War with Cap on the run. Osborn offers Spider-Man to track him down, which could be a really fun story if that ever happens. But it does go to show that Osborn was all about propping up Captain America before, when he thought Captain America made him look good, and now that Captain America is a fugitive, he's the first one trying to collect a bounty on his head. So this kind of establishes that Osborn has zero loyalty here, and he's just a sociopath who uses people for public images. By the way, there's this dude named Gallo in this episode. It seems like Osborn registered him as Spider-Man under the Sokovia Accords. I guess because technically Osborn is endangering a minor, which will come up in this batch. Anyway, so then Osborn Tower gets broken into, so Norman forces Peter to defend the tower. But before there's time for that, we go back to the Lonnie show, where Lonnie gets targeted by Girl Scorpion and is like, oh no, she's following me, she's gonna kill me. And anyway, then back to Spider-Man. Spider-Man's at Oscorp Tower, and he eventually runs into Daredevil, who's just called the Devil in this universe. That's different. So Daredevil talks like a stereotypical superhero, and he's very quippy against Peter. He's not really fighting Peter seriously, and he warns Peter that Osborn is up to something, and then he knocks Peter out with his half nunchuck. Back at Peter's house, Nico and Harry are playing with tarot cards. Oh, hey, look, a Mephisto card. That's a joke from 5 years ago. Now, I hope Peter never gets married and decides to sell his marriage to him. Anyway, Harry pisses Nico off by not believing in marriage, and then accidentally reveals that Peter is Spider-Man to Nico, but Nico doesn't believe it. Anyway, after the Daredevil fight, Osborn completely misleads the action and tells Peter that Otto Octavius is the villain here, and maybe Daredevil was a mercenary working for him. Now, I don't know for a fact that Osborn is misleading him. He could just be plain dumb and be jumping to conclusions because he knows Otto is behind the other robberies. But anyway, even Peter starts having doubts about Osborn's narrative because he didn't think Daredevil was a bounty hunter. But before they can really think about that, Osborn brushes all that aside and lets Peter know that Octavius is the main bad guy now. And there's a fun photo of them together in the past. And now that I think about it, does that mean Oscorp actually made all the stupid human enhancement gear that Doc Ock is selling to these goons? Maybe Doc Ock didn't make all that stuff. Maybe he just stole it from Oscorp. Anyway, Peter goes home and Nico awkwardly exposes that Peter is Spider-Man. And yeah, she didn't actually think he was Spider-Man, so she instantly completely loses faith with him, and that's so sad. After that, we go back to Lonnie for yet another time in the episode, and Lonnie's going to live at the warehouse now because Girl Scorpion has chased him there. And meanwhile, Doc Ock has put together the Mac Gargan Scorpion suit, and that's the end of the episode. Holy fuck, Mac Gargan is Scorpion now. What a twist. Okay, so that episode was okay. There was a lot of Peter-Nico relationship drama, which I was into. The Daredevil cameo I thought was going to be cool. The fight was cool, but overall I'm like underwhelmed with the amount of Daredevil here because I didn't feel like I got enough Daredevil action. I don't really know what Daredevil's up to, and kind of playing it after the fact, I don't know. It felt like it was almost a meaningless cameo. Just be like, watch the show, Daredevil's in it. I really hope they come back to this later and explain what it was all about. Because usually Spider-Man and Daredevil clash over like their common doings with the Kingpin, and like Daredevil's like, I gotta stop the Kingpin, and Spider-Man's like, yeah, but you can't break the law, haha. I'm kind of surprised Daredevil has it out for Osborn. I honestly can't remember Daredevil and Osborn ever fighting before, so yeah, I gotta wonder what the hell's up with that. Maybe Kingpin is like deeper into the city at some point. But yeah, the big fan theory I'm tracking in my head is Norman Osborn the Goblin already? Is he doing these Goblin things? And if he's doing Goblin things, is Daredevil stalking him for doing Goblin things? I'm going to rank this at a 6 out of 10 because there's enough drama here to keep it juicy, but there was still way too much Lonnie in this episode where Lonnie was just chased by a scary car. Oh my god. Alright, next episode, Scorpion Rising. This is the big one. So, Nico and Peter are pretty much done at this point, and that's so sad. Peter and Pearl start drifting together in the void of Lonnie being gone, and then Lonnie's brother texts Pearl, and I believe he explains where the gang are and that Lonnie joined the gang, and he explains it all to Pearl over text off screen, so, great. Then we get more gang crap with Lonnie and the 110th Street gang ganging up for a big gang war against the Scorpion gang. Then, meanwhile, Peter and Norman are trying to track down Octavius, and they randomly decide that Octavius is randomly using gamma radiation with no good rationale why. I know this is just like geek lore because it's like what the Hulk uses, and maybe they're like trying to set up like that Octavius can like Hulk out or something, but otherwise, realistically, it just means that Otto would have like a mini nuclear reactor somewhere, which would be pretty easy to track in New York City. Harry tries to apologize to Nico, and it's super awkward. Nico forces him to buy her dinner, which is just pizza. Then Harry decides to give Nico a driving lesson where they challenge this random race car driver lady, and that's like a stupid scene. Pearl finally arrives at the gang factory to stop Lonnie, except holy shit, Scorpion comes out and immediately starts killing people to death with his big knife tail. Now, I love the Scorpion design. What I love about it is because it was designed by Doc Ock. Scorpion in this show is essentially Dr. Monopus because his tail is just one double-length Doc Ock arm. So that's really cool for the consistency of the show because that means that like when Doc Ock comes out, he's going to be 4 times more powerful than Scorpion. And anyway, otherwise, the Scorpion design is pretty like low-tech. It's got like the tail and it's got some weird boots, but otherwise he's just like wearing a tank top. I think they're eventually going to build up to the old storyline where he can't ever take the Scorpion suit off, which always sucks, but I guess it's not as terrible as some previous Scorpion suits, since at least with this one, it looks like he can at least go to the bathroom in this design. Like, seriously, like, when I think about all, like, the stories about Scorpion not being able to take off his suit, like, how'd that guy go to the bathroom? Why didn't he just die of, like, blood poisoning from, like, his suit filling up with poop? Anyway, then Scorpion goes to kill Lonnie, so there's one thing that has kind of been bothering me, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but in a nutshell, I feel like Lonnie is smiling too much unrealistically, considering, number one, the shit state of his life, number two, the fact he's in this like dangerous gang constantly being murdered, and like I can't tell if he's either smiling because the animation is bad or the direction is bad, or maybe he's just smiling because there's some dark and twisted part of him that enjoys being Tombstone and is ignorant to his position in life. Now, I thought at this episode the Lonnie storyline and the Spider-Span storyline were finally going to cross over and have this like big like climax, but nah, it doesn't really happen. Like what happens is Spider-Man shows up, he saves Lonnie and Pearl, and then they immediately fucking leave without interacting with Spider-Man at all. What the fuck, show? Now, meanwhile, Scorpion just keeps hulking out with the Hulk power of gamma radiation and almost kills Spider-Man because he keeps getting stronger like the Hulk. Norman checks out to track down Otto, and I guess he's doing that because he's obsessed with Otto and he has confidence in Peter. Peter also expresses that he has the situation handled, but it's still kind of a shitty thing to do for Norman to clock out when Peter's still like on the scene. Now, Scorpion almost kills Peter, which is a big deal, so Norman like freaks out and sends the Goblin Guider to get him, which at this point is just a fancy remote control drone for transporting people. But wow, that is mind-blowing because like when you really think about it, Spider-Man's been a comic for like 60 years, and in that 60 years, the Goblin Glider has gone from this like weird, dramatic sci-fi bullshit to, of course, a millionaire has a special drone to abduct people. Like Jeff Bezos definitely would have one, and yeah. So Norman whips out this Goblin Glider, and I'm super obsessed with this big question of whether or not Norman is the Goblin already. Because think about it, he's obsessed with superheroes. He has a machine to instantly make superhero suits. So yeah, I wonder if Norman has been goblining. Maybe he like took a break from goblining. Like, when the fuck is Green Goblin going to come out? Because with the glider established, that means he's definitely ready to go if he's not gobbling already. Like, I have to bet based on the look of that glider that when Norman does go full goblin, it's going to be a lot like the version from like the first Spider-Man movie, which would kind of suck because I honestly prefer like the comic look where he's just like a psycho in a Halloween costume. But yeah, it seems like he's probably going to go for like the Iron Man look and just be like kind of that guy. All right, so this is probably the best episode of the show so far. I'm annoyed that the show is so weirdly against having Peter and Lonnie's storylines clash, like directly, like overlap. Despite the fact they keep giving Lonnie almost as much screen time as Peter, that's insane. Anyway, the Scorpion fight saved this episode. That fight was brutal. I didn't expect the show to go all the way with like blood and like almost killing Peter. So yeah, this episode gets my highest score, 9 out of 10. I would have given it 10 out of 10 if Lonnie and Pearl just stuck around in the battle and did not leave the second Spider-Man arrive, because that was just too fucking perfect. All right, that brings us to the last episode of The Batch, Tangled Web, episode 8. So Peter wakes up in an Oscorp hospital where everyone sees he's Spider-Man, but they're like Oscorp employees, so supposedly they won't tell. He gets the treatment. Some lady takes a ton of Peter's blood. They're definitely setting up Clone Saga here. Peter and Osborn will have a falling out, and then Osborn will just clone more Peters. Also, Norman said the suit couldn't be penetrated, and now the suit's been penetrated twice. So what the fuck is it, Norman? Or is that just bad writing, or is Norman like drinking his own Kool-Aid here? Anyway, Peter is good by the next day because of his healing factor, and then Norman gives Peter a talk down and puts him on a weird leave of absence. While Peter's leaving Oscorp, he goes down to the lab where the lab interns have built his generator machine that he pitched a few episodes. Like, I guess the other interns just built it for him. Then we also see Dr. Connors looking like longingly at her lizard. I guess they're going to somehow get fused together in some twisted way. Guys, I gotta tell you, I cannot wait to see how bad the show messes up the gender-bent version of the lizard. I don't think gender-bending Kirk Connors was a bad idea. I think it's a hilarious idea. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. That's just like the biggest time bomb the show has waiting to go off. Because, like, think about it. She's a female lizard. Is she going to lay eggs? Like, what is going to be up with that? Anyway, May catches Peter beat up and has a big breakdown that, oh my god, she's a horrible parent. In the classic comics, Aunt May was like too old and too farsighted to see Peter with Spider-Man. But since this is the younger MCU version, I guess instead they're going that she's just busy and neglectful. Then May explains more about Uncle Ben, and we do get confirmation that Peter, May, and Ben lived together for a little bit before he died. And we finally see a picture of him, and he turns out to just be some fat guy. Then we go back to Otto, who's playing some kind of cat Minecraft, Animal Crossing Minecraft. Is that a crossover waiting to happen? Anyway, Otto's desktop is a mess, but it kind of looks like mine, so I can't complain that much. Otto gets raided by the SWAT team, and he fucking destroys them while dancing to upbeat jazz, which is kind of awesome. I think he also does the Bad Peter dance from Spider-Man 3. He finally gets almost caught by Thunderbolt Ross, but then Iron Man shows up, and it's a very Silver Age Iron Man design, so that was interesting. Now, I wonder if this is the explanation for why we've never seen Otto Octavius in the MCU. Is it because Tony Stark arrested him years ago? Peter has this big nightmare about Nico because he fucked it up with her, and then he gets distracted by Pearl again. And damn it, Peter, you're so fucking dense. You're giving up gold to pursue another man's leftover cheddar. Now, I also forget where it was in this episode, but both Peter and Pearl made this unsuccessful attempt to stop Lonnie from being a criminal, and he kind of blew both of them out and was just like, I don't need you. At this point, it's frustrating how dumb and stupid and doomed Lonnie is. Anyway, May tells Peter he needs a male role model, and Peter, being dumb, decides that maybe Norman can be that because he's the richest guy Peter knew. And yeah, this is kind of a callback to the way Peter like obsessed with Tony Stark in the mainline MCU. It's starting to feel like, you know, the show is kind of criticizing like the way that MCU Spider-Man became Iron Man Jr. With this show switching it to Norman, it's kind of pointing out like how fucked up a relationship it is that, you know, we have this teenage superhero who's like completely reliant on this like selfish male billionaire. Anyway, Norman kicks out Harry being a bad dad and then has an awkward Peter moment where he manipulates Peter and tells him that great power deserves great respect, which is a weird, funky twist, but I'm here for that. Then we go back to the 110th Street gang. Since they lost their factory, they're now homeless and they live in an alley. They meet up with Chameleon, who tells them that Otto Octavius exists, in exchange for a bag full of their quarters. And then Lonnie is all in on this fucking gang war. Once again, I'm kind of over Lonnie at this point. Like, he's unredeemable, he's evil. Stop giving him half the show's screen time and just dump him in a vat of acid and let him start doing Tombstone shit, because he's like too evil to be saved and too unpowered to be interesting. Back at Osborn Tower, Harry gives Peter his real Spider-Man suit, and Harry is a really fucking cool friend. Now, don't get me wrong, I wish he would change his clothes, because he's been wearing those clothes for like months at this point. Also, I'm not digging the man bun, but he's otherwise a solid Harry Osborn. Although he does start calling Peter Tiger like Mary Jane, which is weird. I'm sure people are going to read into that. Alright, this is a pretty nice cooldown episode after that super bloody chaotic Scorpion fight. And the whole shit with Norman here was juicy enough to keep the episode solid. I'm going to give this one another 7 out of 10. Even though it was a filler episode, a lot of fun things happened this episode, even though they were just trying to get the plot from point A to point B. Like the Doc Ock SWAT team fight was kind of the centerpiece of the episode, and I kind of love that. The only way this episode could have been better is if he had actually fought Iron Man, and Iron Man wasn't just like another senseless cameo. Alright, so that's it for the third batch of Spider-Man episodes. I think the next batch is the last batch, unless they split that batch in half just to milk the show a little bit longer. So quickly responding to some feedback I got from the last episode video I did. Okay, so overall, I don't hate Lonnie. I hate the amount of screen time he's getting in relevance to his downfall and his rise as a crime boss. Now, I heard some people talking that they now expect this to be a consistent thing. Like, this is always going to be the Spider-Man Tombstone show. And like 3 years from now, like when the show is in its third season, Lonnie will still have 50% of the screen time. No, absolutely not. I couldn't stand it if they did that. Like, I'm expecting Tombstone to be the end of the season villain. I'm expecting Tombstone to finally be defeated and arrested and like a big pity party. Like, oh, poor Lonnie, he had it all and he threw it away because of no particular reason. I just personally don't really understand why Lonnie keeps going back to the gang, other than the fact that he's earned like mutual respect for them. But I mean, like, that's short-sighted, because doesn't he realize he has no future as a gangster, especially when he seemingly had like a promising NFL career set up at the start of the show? Considering all the build-up they give to Lonnie in the show, they never quite explain what he's doing or what his motivation is. Like, what is his transaction with the gang? It doesn't seem like they're paying him. It doesn't seem like it's a part-time job. It doesn't seem like he has a drug problem or any other vices that would like need all this money that they're not paying him. It just seems like he's a follower and an idiot. If anything, Lonnie accepting this life of crime so carelessly just feels like it's the cliche stereotype of football players being idiots. Like, I'm expecting Lonnie to be in jail by the next season, and in a perfect world, maybe they'll just give Lonnie screen time to the next big bad guy. If they do that, I'm good with the format of the show. Like, think about it like if Eddie Brock shows up in the next season and Eddie Brock has as much screen time as Lonnie, then this could be a really cool show. I kind of think that's happening since they already said Venom in episode 1, and that's like a hanging plot hole. So let me know what you guys think. I feel like at this point, a lot of people have given up on this show because of its weird format, but yeah, if you're a hardcore Spider-Man show, you're getting some good stuff here, and I think it's a good show. All right, that's all I have to say about this batch. Thanks for coming around again, and I guess I'll see you on the last one. Later.